We're now getting prepped for our panel discussion to welcome back some of our speakers from today. First, if we can welcome back Graham Baxter, the former COO of Three UK. Paul, actually, if you can just stay back up here as well, thank you very much. We also have Madhukiran Medithe, the Chief Data and AI Officer for Rakuten Mobile, and Professor Rahim Tafazolli from the University of Surrey.
It's okay. No.
So Graham, I'll just start with you first, actually. Obviously, I understand you received a lot of questions earlier. There was a lot of interest in your session. I suppose in the near term, my first question to you would be, if we don't see immediate, what kind of immediate change does the industry need to see in the short term to ensure its long-term health?
Cost per pipe. Cost per bit.
Cost per bit? No, I don't know. That didn't go down very well earlier. I think it's just I quite like actually the four conversations are actually quite complementary. And actually it's all aspects of those four areas that you need to consider. And that the first thing that needs to happen is for telcos to actually stand back from the way they've always done things and understand a bigger landscape and see how they could embrace some of the amazing things that are going on from a technology point of view and how that can change the way they operate. It does require a shift. This is not an easy incremental change. It's a fundamental change. But it starts with getting your head around how it all fits together and what technology is out there that could be adopted and implemented to make you more successful.
I mean, coming from an operational standpoint, I suppose, as a COO, how much of that is a technological challenge versus one of culture and operations?
Well, it's interesting because I think we saw on the 5G, 6G presentation that there was a IT and telecoms coming together, but it's bigger than that. So I'll give you some examples that may be really basic, but just hopefully to underline the point I'm trying to say. So I did move Three to using cloud, not just for IT, but for the telecom stuff as well. And you think, well, that's okay. It's just a technology thing, right? I can sort that out because I'm accountable for that area. But it's broader than that. So there's an impact on procurement, right? So, well, why is there an impact on procurement? So we've got our own data centers with tin in the data centers, and if I need more capacity, there's a process to follow. I order some more servers. There's a set process set up for those to go out to tender, get the servers in and get them deployed. In a cloud world, the system automatically provisions the additional capacity. There is no procurement anymore. It's gone. Finance. So finance like to keep a good grip on where your money's going, but if your network is self-provisioning and scaling up, there is no involvement of finance, right? So they're no longer in control of whether you're going to get your money for another server. So it fundamentally changes the way the whole organization is set up. So how you set up for living in a world that's cloud is very different. So it affects every single part of the organization. That's the reality of it. Although the conversations I used to have were very much, well, that's a technology thing. It's not. If you really want to move and get the most of this, it is a fundamental shift of how you set your operation up.
Paul, to what extent do you agree or disagree with Graham's comments there? Is that a fair reflection?
Fully agree.
Thank you.
No, yeah, I agree, but I personally, but maybe that's the consulting angle, I don't want to bring all the problems in the first meetings so I like to focus on something and show it from that point to maybe the finance department is not needed anymore. If you come in up front with all this knowledge, Yeah, a lot. It's fear that results in fear and unclarities and even more uncertainty. So I personally like to slither in the room a bit, although my figure is against me.
Like
But
all consultants. Like all consultants.
yeah, and then we are reproducing ourselves now. But I mean, that I like start something, show it can work, and then be smart about how to make it robust or operationalized. So that's more an approach thing. I know it's all there, so I'm not disagreeing, but I would not try to solve everything up front, because then you stay where you are. I'm always afraid of that.
Adding to that, I mean, let me add the same content mentioned by my dear panelist. I see two shifts we require. One thing is ionization. The data science normally
Sorry,
for the
apologies, is that ionization?
ionization,
That's
meaning
a Rakuten industry term, but yes, ionization, sorry. Madhu.
so meaning what I mean to say is data science, analytics, coming to the different industry, different sectors is different way. If you talk about fintech or if you talk about e-commerce, they have different kind of way of approach. But telecom is totally different. The subject matter is the key thing. It is when you wanted to understand, develop any model, right? You need to understand what feature I need to take, because you do anything in the network immediately impacts the subscriber experience, because we are reacting is very, very quickly. So rather than taking the actions in the reactive way, you have to work on the proactive. That's what we have to educate our employees, our co-colleagues, mainly onto the AI side. We need to train them. So because they are the subject matter for us. You are the subject matter, you know what I do change, what implements in my network, what is going to replicate in my network. So that kind of nature, that kind of tendency has to bring. Second thing is running the AI, and be it in cloud or be it in data centers, it's very, very cost effective. I mean, cost in the sense of GPUs basically, because you have petabytes of data and you have billions of data sets are there. So running those things, definitely you will be using GPUs, which is an energy consumption. So these two has to be addressed properly. Getting a right person, getting a right team, not only centric to the data science, but properly subject matter inducted to that. So that's make a good change. And when you say I have an AI model, that's where you can talk about what is your team. That's what we see. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Madhu. I think Professor Rahim, I'm kind of keen to get your input on this, because I mean we've discussed prior to today's sessions. Do you believe, generally speaking, is there a disconnect between expectation and reality? And what is your perspective from an academia standpoint? Is how much, in terms of what we discuss theoretically, can be put into practice, and where is the gap there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm different academics than most of the academics that you see globally, because from the very beginning of my academic career, more than 30 years ago, since 2G, I always work with industry. Not work for industry, but work with industry. So I'm always trying to be up to date with the industry challenges and try to solve them from the technical point of view. So that put us in a very different position compared to most of the academics who do. As you saw, most of the problems we talk about IT and telecom, it sounds all good, yeah. But there are lots of issues, there are lots of problems. AI sounds good, ML sounds good, but there are lots of problems that it would, as a result, will cause. And those problems are important to industry. They need to, and that needs to be tackled. And that needs a new innovative solution that could come up with the academia or research organization. The question you ask other colleagues about IT and telecom, I mentioned from the technical point of view. I challenge the industry. 5G is about transformation, mainly for the digitizing and automating the vertical industries. My challenge to you is, first try to convince your IT department that 5G is good for them before you go to automotive or to manufacturing, to other industry trying to sell them the IT. So which is IT itself is like a vertical industry to telecom. So if you don't solve that one within your own organization, you're not going to solve and convince the other industry that what 5G or telecom or whatever it's going to bring is they should adopt. So that I see that's the main problem that we see in the industry at the moment. That's why everybody complains that we haven't made any money out of 5G yet. Where are we money out of 5G? I believe that they need to get the business model right, B2B right and B2C.
I mean, the requirements, definitely they are missing. Basically. Why?
Yeah, everything is there. It is a huge capability, 5G.
Graham, what's your perspective on that? I noticed a sort of wry smile there. What's your take on Professor's input?
Yeah, well, I agree, but I guess I've always been in the position where I've got to try and make some of this stuff happen. And there's a certain reality. So I think some of the conversations we were having earlier, some of the questions I was being asked, sort of imply that every customer is adopting the latest technology and all the bells and whistles that go with it, and that's just not the case. So you drew a curve and said of all of the most latest and greatest technology that's been deployed in networks, what percentage of the customer base are actually making use of it? It would be, it will drop off, and you've got customers out there who don't have a mobile or don't use any of these services. So I've always sort of tried. I think the new technology is fantastic. The question is, how do you actually adopt it and deploy it in a way that customers can benefit from, and everybody wins? And it's really quite hard to do. I mean, I'll give another example, because I think for me it's about how do you make things easy for customers to use. I think you did touch it on your presentation about in the future you need to be able to, customers don't need to have to understand technology to get the most out of it. I'll give an example of my 94-year-old father-in-law who's a Sky TV watcher. He's got his TV and his Sky, and he's a BT broadband user, and he gets a bill through the door or his monthly letter from BT, and it says, "You've now got free TNT sports." So he says to me, "Fantastic, can I watch it on my Sky? Because I can see the TNT channel on my Sky." I try to explain to him that actually your TNT subscription is with BT through, and you can't watch it through your Sky. And the idea is you have an app. Well, where do I get that from? And we go through, well, plug another device into your TV, a Fire Stick or something, and then you download your TNT app, and then, it's just, he's got zero chance of ever making use of this technology. He can see I'm paying, in his mind, I'm paying for my TNT sports, and I can see it on the TV, and I've just got absolutely no idea. I mean, that's an extreme case, but I would say there's, people in this room are all very familiar with all this technology and always talking about the latest and greatest thing. But there's a reality of how do you make that accessible and intuitive and automatic for all of the customers out there, be they corporates or consumers. Another example, coming through London there, I've got this fantastic underground coverage now, but I have to do something to make use of it. It's not automatic to me. Now, I come from the industry, so I can work my way around how to do it, but can the average customer? So for me, I sort of more come at things from the practicality of how do I transition my organisation to make use of all this stuff, because there's all sorts of challenges of inertia that Paul's talked about, and how do I make this technology accessible to customers so they don't have to work very hard to actually get the benefit.
I suppose that links back quite nicely to some of the things Madhu has talked about there in terms of using those data sets to understand customers better and provide better services. Based on what Graham has said there, Madhu, do you think there's anything that you would recommend in terms of how data can be used to drive better results in that sense?
So I will give the live example. Basically, let's take a use case where a subscriber is downloading or watching a HD movie in his device. iPhone device is watching some HD movie. So on 4G environment, he would be, he would paying around a monthly bill, maybe £20, maybe $20, assume that. But the same subscriber, if I keep in under 5G environment, the behavior is the same. Subscriber behavior is the same. He's using the same videos or same contents. But the HD quality moves from 720 to 1080 or maybe 1980. Subscriber won't be noticing it but the data rate, which is actually 5G is giving, right? That actually the ARPU increase for the organization, right? How much is consuming the data? So for the end user, yes, it's the same data. He will not be noticing whether it is 720 or 1080, but if it goes 1980, definitely you will consume the more data. That's where you have to see where is my 5G has to play. That's where you do the smart deployment in Tokyo. That's what we do in our environment. Tokyo is very densely populated, and everybody using latest devices, right? So we know where the concentration is there, where we have to deploy the 5G, be it in a millimeter wave sub-6, and how we are generating the ARPU. That's the trade-off. We have to come up with your analytics, right? So I agree, totally agree what they mentioned it, but you need to know what my use case is, how I have to drive towards that. Yeah.
I think on that note, we're running out of time here, ladies and gents. Are there any questions from the audience for our panel at all? And if you could give your name and organisation before the question, that'd be much appreciated.
Hi, Robert Curran from Apple Research. What one question are telcos not asking themselves that they should be asking themselves to get to some of the destinations we've talked about today?
Would you mind, Robert, directing that to a particular panel?
Well, probably perhaps Paul is a good place to start, given that you're speaking with telcos all the time.
Yeah, thank you for the 2 minutes you gave me. Because I was already thinking of it. I think maybe I will start the other way around. They don't, what they are doing is thinking in the silos they already have. So the first thing that they should do, in my view, is forget about how you are organized. What do you actually want to achieve for your customer? It sounds very open door, but it's not what they're doing. They're still, no, we are from the department customer service and we are looking at how can we reduce call time or load, or it's not really focused on what is of value for the customer. I do this, for example, with price. I ask them the price plans of a product, and then then I ask, and they also don't do this, what is the value that a customer could recognize of this list? I mean, speed, 100 gigs, 200, what does it mean for a customer? I know in the business market these people will have calculated people, but normally they don't ask themselves what is the value that the customer sees that we offer. We price bundles. Who knows what a bundle is? I have 4 kids. They all don't understand the whole concept bundle. There's only one who's paying for it when they're not in the bundle anymore. But nobody understands anymore. So I think they're not asking these questions. Can we release the power by getting rid of the silo thinking? And can we not really look at it from a customer value instead of this is my price list? But it sounds very down to earth, but maybe I'm down to earth.
Can I add on the top? So this what your data set comes into picture. When you have this ecosystem, I know these are the subscribers who are using this 5G services, 4G services, and how they are actually in the other ecosystem. How much they are actually accessing my other products, not telecom side, e-commerce or fintech. How their stickiness is. When I try to correlate these kind of things, right, first thing I will address the retainability, the churn, the first factor. Because if you see in the telecom industry, the biggest factor is the churning. Right? Subscribers keep moving from one entity to another entity. So how you wanted to retain them, how you wanted to predict them. So you can only predict when you have the good ecosystem data, because every operator is giving more or less the same data rates, same speeds, more or less 2 to 3% coverage difference is there, because we see data every day. But the point is how you're going to stick that particular customer in your ecosystem. That makes your retainability of the subscriber. That's where the data is more viable. That's where we are playing across.
Thank you.
Yep.
In some areas of telecoms, we're seeing a reinvention between retail and wholesale. Particularly on the fixed side, you've got fixed wholesale fiber operators, open access, and then a bunch of retail ISPs as their customers. Up to a point, we get that in mobile with MVNOs as well. Does that sort of disaggregation and delayering make your lives easier or harder? Do you want to see more of it or less of it?
From the data perspective, yes, MVNOs are the biggest competitors because they are very low price centric, and there are some, if you see the customers, right, some are price centric, some are the quality centric, some are actually your loyal customers. Loyal customers are always with you. But the price-centric subscribers who are between 0 to 5 GB or 0 to 3 GB who are using, so those kind of subscribers we need to target. Maybe they're using the more data usage in the Wi-Fi environment, which you're not able to get it, right? And because MNO charges might be different. So this is something, a gap in the industry, what I see. So the way we have to address, from the data, what I can see from the models, what we're trying to do is, where the subscriber on outside, how much is using the data, why he's not using, why he's not moving from one set of data rate to another. Let's say 0 to 3 GB or 3 to 5 GB, why he's not moving, right? What is most of the time is only in the residential area, or is going to the commercial areas, or is going in office. What mobility, basically, I will try to understand what is mobility factors. So when I start looking per subscriber level, when I train my model per subscriber level, that's where you would start understanding his DNA, basically. That's understanding his data sense. So then you can target those kind of segments, users, offering them some particular campaigns where you can start engaging with the different products within your organization or within your ecosystem. That's where I see. Yes, MNOs are the competitors because of the low data rates, but there are ways where you can come across. Yeah, that's what we are doing right now.
Any further questions for the panel?
Lunch.
I think on that note, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for our panelists then? Thank you very much.
Thank you.